Guys, and welcome to this week's episode of Off the Wire, a little special edition. We're joined by one of our writers here at hoopslounge.com, Mike Grumberg, and here we're going to go over the top 5 articles. This is after the July 1st, first day of free agency. How you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing really, really well, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen in free agency. The NBA landscape can actually change.
It can change, and it's starting to, well...
It started with a lot of re-signings.
A lot of re-signings. So, first one here, Marcin Gortat. Signing a 5-year, $60 million deal, which is going to take him into about 34 years old with the Washington Wizards. Did they have to do this considering their success last year and they're building off Beal, and you don't know about Nene's injury issues?
That's it. You don't know about Nene, so this gives them front court reliability. He's a solid defender. He scores really, really well around the basket. John Wall and him have some certain chemistry. So I think Washington had to make this if they wanted to show their fan base that they were for real. However, I think $60 million for the next 2 or 3 years won't look so bad, but in those last 2 years, it's going to be arduous for the Wizards to try and move that.
Absolutely. But do you think this is the best call for Gortat to stay with the Wizards?
I think if someone offers Marcin Gortat $60 million in an environment he's comfortable with, where he's going to the playoffs every year, I think he stays, and this is the right move for him.
Well, according to a few articles, if Miami had cleared up 12, which is not conclusive, I think that would have been a better call. But he stays in the East, and if the East gets worse, they're in the playoffs.
If Miami crumbles, Washington, Toronto, right there.
That's going to be a strange landscape in the East. Second article here, the Golden State Warriors signing Shaun Livingston. Shaun Livingston really having a breakthrough season last year with the Brooklyn Nets.
After almost a decade of non-breakthrough seasons and injuries.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen that brutal knee injury, that was one of the worst ever in sports history. So he reaches a 3-year, $16 million deal. $5 million a year for hopefully a starting point guard.
Great deal. These guys regretted losing Jarrett Jack. They kept trying to fill in that backcourt, and they realized that the downside of Jack was that, he can create offense, he helps teammates out, but he wasn't the strongest defender, and they get more length. They can put him with Iguodala and, of course, your man Draymond Green. These guys can become a terror on the perimeter defensively, and this really opens up the chance of maybe, just maybe, making a bigger deal for Kevin Love.
Well, yeah, because we remember Kevin Love, the whole deal is contingent on Klay Thompson going to Minnesota, and if they didn't include him, Minnesota was not interested. And what's interesting is Shaun Livingston, not exactly known as a knockdown shooter, but for now, at least with the Splash Brothers, that should be able to cover his deficiencies.
Listen, if you've got Steph Curry and Kevin Love on your team, you're not worried about knocking down the long ball.
No, exactly. And as we were talking before, the defensive potential with him, Iguodala, Andrew Bogut, Draymond Green, that could really push Golden State over the edge.
I'm also a fan in thinking that when you put Steph Curry in a backcourt with him and you also have Iguodala playing, you have 2 bigger guards that can play make for Steph Curry, and that can't be overlooked either. He can play off ball and knock down some corner shots.
That's called buckets. Third article here, Avery Bradley re-signs with the Celtics. He wanted to stay there. He's going to stay there. 4-year, $32 million deal.
Defense wins championships. Unfortunately, you got to make the playoffs first.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, he's an undersized 2. He's going to stay there with now a very crowded backcourt with Rajon Rondo and Marcus Smart. So you have to think Rondo's the odd man out here.
I think Rondo's the odd man out, but I'd really like to see what happens if the 3 of those guys engaged in a 3-point shooting competition. I think it'll be like the first to 5 points wins.
I think someone would just tap and just give up. They'd just be like, we're done. Although, on the defensive side, this is going to be interesting. Well,
on the defensive side, that backcourt is just going to bulldog other guards around. It's going to be fantastic.
Although it's funny because their front court's going to do nothing with Olenek and Sullinger, so they're not stopping anyone. So you got to hope that the first line of defense is taking
that perimeter defender never lets the man go by him, and that's just that.
Because then it's over. All right, fourth article here. Kyrie Irving signing a 5-year, $90 million extension.
Well, it's true, right? They say never, never, never pass up your first max dollar extension, and Kyrie Irving didn't buck that trend. He's staying put in Cleveland. What does that mean for the organization?
Well, I mean, he was their superstar. I mean, is he a leader? Maybe not. Is Andrew Wiggins a leader? Maybe not. I mean, I think this is going to be a big issue, but when it comes to leadership, we've seen on different teams, guys like Shane Battier, Derek Fisher can step in and provide that veteran leadership role. He was their superstar. You can't let him walk, because if you let him walk, they're remarkably worse. So, and if you want to have a chance to entice LeBron James into town, that may not happen, but you
need to keep him. I agree. My only concern here is that everybody knows the knock on Kyrie Irving is defense. And let's be honest here. Let's look at what happened with Houston and James Harden, who's a bigger guard who's offensively supremely gifted, right, but doesn't play defense. And how far is that going to get you? Well, Kyrie trying to guard Bennett, Wiggins, Waiters. I mean, where's this defense coming from? Wiggins?
I think,
Tristan Thompson?
Well, in the backcourt from Wiggins, he's already a pretty good defender.
If he plays the 2.
Well, and they're lining him up at the 2. He's going to be a big 2. It's going to be one of those things. I think eventually, once he puts on some weight, he'll be a 3. But I think defensive-wise, I agree with your points. I just think if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers and you're not the #1 destination for all the big name players out there, you have to keep your own. He's young. He's talented. He will get better.
And there's a high trade value on him too. So after a year or 2, it's not working out, you'll still be able to move him.
Exactly. Let's hope that same trade value goes for Tristan Thompson, Dion Waiters. Those guys are the odd mans out.
Oh, bye-bye Bennett.
And the 5th article here, Lance Stephenson. Lance can make them dance. His contract's still up in the air, so apparently he shot down a 5-year, $44 million contract.
And that's insulting to him. He shouldn't take 5 years and $44 million. Are you kidding me?
Although some people would say because of his antics, because of what he's had troubles with off the court and on the court, blowing LeBron some kisses. Maybe he's not worth investing big money in.
Maybe Indiana's not the right place for him, but he is worth more money than this. I'm sorry, when Gortat gets 5 years and 60, I know you pay for size, but Lance Stephenson, this guy can legitimately get you a triple-double against any type of competition in the NBA.
Yeah, and if there's one team that just popped up, I know they just signed Jody Meeks for a 3-year deal. Wouldn't he be a great Piston? Bad boy Pistons, bring that back.
Well, he would have the bad boy side down, but I really do hope
him and Andre Drummond anyways.
I hope Lance Stephenson makes more than $10 million a year because he really is worthy of that kind of money. And what we're failing to realize is that there's still potential for him to develop and improve. I mean, if he gets better on what he did this year, he's worth way more than $10 million.
Well, they better hope so. They're paying a lot of money, considering David West makes $12 million. David West makes the same money as Marcin Gortat.
My issue here is that if George Hill wasn't pulling in $8 million a year, how much money would Lance Stephenson really earn?
I agree. I just think George Hill should be the odd man out. I don't think he makes any sense. I think they need a real point guard, to be honest. But
we're going to have to wait and see what Indiana does.
Yeah, we'll have to see. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining for another episode of Off the Wire. Myself, Phil, and co-worker here at Hoops Lounge, Mike, bringing you the info for this week's. Catch us next time, and we'll catch you next time, Off the Wire.